Hello and welcome back and Happy New Year! For those who don't know, my name's Kris, I'm an Australian GP, and the end of January brings along with it a whole wave of new junior doctors starting in our public and private systems. If you're one of them, welcome and congratulations on finishing med school. I was an intern 5 years ago and I remember it vividly, even though 5 years sounds like it was quite some time ago. Above all, I remember from internship that it's not easy. I have done videos like this before and I will link one in particular down below in which I gave a couple of tips for new interns. But, it's been a year and I have slightly better equipment and setup now, so I thought let's do it all over again with 5 more tips for brand new interns entering the Australian healthcare system. Tip number 1 is be enthusiastic. You are allowed to feel your feelings, mind you. This isn't, shove that all aside and just be enthusiastic. You're allowed to be scared, nervous, excited, overwhelmed. You're allowed to feel ecstatic. You're allowed to feel everything. But we, as more senior doctors, including your junior house officers, senior house officers, registrars, and consultants, will know if you're enthusiastic or not. And it makes a big difference when you have someone who you feel like they want to be there. Even if you know that they're scared and even if you know that they're feeling overwhelmed, as long as the person, the intern, shows an interest in being there and shows enthusiasm to learning, it makes for a great experience for everyone, including you as the intern. You don't have to be super bubbly or over the top if that's not who you are naturally, but as long as you're engaged, you're going to be just fine. Number 2 is to honor your protected teaching time. So as an intern, for at least 1 hour a week, you will be given protected teaching time, which means that you will go to an organized teaching similar to medical school in which your nurses and other team members cannot contact you. They can't call you, they can't page you, and if they do, at least in the hospital I was an intern in, they actually took our pages, so we weren't responding to them for the hour or however long intern teaching is. This may seem weird because you've just finished med school, right? And you're no longer doing lectures, you're no longer doing formal studies. So why do I have to rock up? I've got so many jobs on the ward, people will be calling for me, it's an hour I have to catch up with later. But please do honor your protected teaching time. Remember, med school didn't teach you everything. It taught you the basics to be a safe intern. An internship is where you learn to be a safe doctor. In intern teaching, you're not just learning things like this is what blood pressure is. You're learning practical things. What to do if there's a med call. What to do if a patient's blood pressure is high on the ward, how to chart insulin, how to respond to different codes and things like that. So it really is useful, and honestly, even now I wish I had an hour of protected teaching time as a consultant. I wish that there was an hour of my week that I knew I was still getting paid, because you are as an intern, and that no one else could call me and I was studying or I was doing something for continuous professional development. But that's neither here nor there. Long story short, do honor your protected teaching time and enjoy it. In my teaching time as an intern, other than a lot of simulations, we learned how to suture properly, we learned how to cannulate if we weren't so confident, we learned how to do all those sort of practical things, which was really, really cool. So number 3 is know your limits. Yes, I know before I said be enthusiastic, and that still counts. However, if you are asked to do something that you do not feel comfortable with, and it would therefore impact on patient care, speak up. Know your limits. You are going to be asked to do a lot of things you've never done before. For example, you've probably never charted something and signed for it and been, liable for that. You may have written up charts before or helped chart things, but you've never been the doctor whose signature it's attached to. That's okay, because, you know your limits. You know that you can sign for something like paracetamol. But if you're asked to then go and do an arterial blood gas on a patient and you've never done an arterial blood gas, the risk of negatively impacting your patient is higher in that circumstance. So you should know your limit and say, look, I would love to. I've never done it before. Can you teach me? Can you show me? Or can we make it so that I'm more comfortable so that our patient has a good outcome? Because at the end of the day, we're working for our patients. Yes, you might be employed by Queensland Health, New South Wales Health, whomever, but at the end of the day, that's why we're doctors, is to treat patients. The other tidbit with knowing your limits is be receptive to constructive criticism and teaching and be open to learning new things. If someone pulls you aside and says, hey, I've noticed you're doing this, why don't you try this? It's not, we're looking at you going, oh, you're a bad doctor. It's, hey, this might actually help you and your patients in the long run. So be receptive to feedback. Number 4, learn to triage. And I know through med school and probably your emergency department placements in particular, you know what triage is. You know that it means that you treat those who need it first, and then you can work down the line to those who don't need it as quickly as someone who's a category higher than them. But when you're an intern, you will be expected to do so many things. Chart this, replace this cannula, go and check on this person, respond to a chest pain, answer calls, give advice to the nurses, the physios, the OTs, and other allied health. And if you try and do it in chronological order, well, if the first one is reach out someone's paracetamol and they've not used it for, 2 days, the next one is call a physio about ambulating a patient, and the next one's a chest pain. I mean, it seems a bit silly, doesn't it, to chart the Panadol for someone who doesn't need it and talk to the physio when someone could be having a really significant event. So you learn to triage that way. And then it's learning to triage within categories. So if you've got 4 people who need a cannula, well, find out who needs it first. You might get a call from bed 1 and they need it for their next set of antibiotics in 8 hours, and then half an hour later be called about bed 2 who needs it for their next set of another infusion right now. You should do bed 2 before bed 1. I hope I'm making sense. Essentially, you need to learn how to triage your own jobs and also know how to delegate. As the intern, you don't control the delegation, but you start to go, okay, this is what I can do. The registrar needs to do that, so just make sure that they're covering that base. So learning to work as a team, essentially, but triage is super duper important. I'm not denying it can feel overwhelming, but it's a great skill to know. And number 5, think of discharge summaries as clinical handovers to community physicians, or community consultants, in fact. So I know what it's like to be an intern, to have all those jobs. I just sort of listed some of them before, and then to be told, oh, and so-and-so is being discharged, they need a discharge summary today. You're like, ugh, are they really going to see their GP at 8 o'clock tomorrow morning? Probably not, I'll do it tomorrow. But then tomorrow comes and you've got a whole list of things, and then you've got more people who are discharged, and you think, oh, well, it's fine, I can do it later. And it just keeps being pushed back. And then all of a sudden, oh my goodness, we need to do these discharge summaries. Just copy and paste the notes from the first and the last visit, and that's it. And no specific follow-up for GP. Except that's really not helpful. And I'm guilty. I am absolutely guilty as an intern of doing discharge summaries like that, because I used to try and catch up on my night shifts and things like that for all the teams, and I do discharge summaries for patients I'd never met before. There's nothing wrong with that if you go through the notes, but a proper discharge summary is a clinical handover. It would be extremely frustrating if someone from ICU was transferred to the medical ward or surgical ward or wherever, and all you had was a copy of their first note and their last note without a handover of this is what they need now, this is their needs for discharge, this is what's happened. You'd have no idea. And it's very similar in the community. And of course, I have bias. I am a GP. And I guess that's where a lot of my passion comes from too, is I know what it's like on both sides now, and I wish there was a way for us to communicate better. So even if, I've done a whole video, by the way, on discharge summaries, so I'm trying not to just redo it all now. But essentially, why'd they come in? They came in with chest pain, abdo pain, complaining of shortness of breath, complaining of XYZ. What happened in hospital? They were admitted, we did these images, we did this fluid, we changed these medications, we booked this appointment, all of this x-rays and other blood tests, that's what I was looking for. Their blood test results and all of that goes through. Then at the end, dear Dr. So-and-so, thank you for your ongoing care of patient X. They presented with Y. We did 1, 2, 3. The plan from our team was that they get repeat bloods, blah, 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 and we will see them in our clinic in the upcoming weeks or whatever it is. That's a handover, and that's super helpful. Really, really want to drive that home, that discharge summaries are clinical handovers. They're just not verbal ones necessarily. So that's it. 5 extra tips for you for your internship. I hope you're having a good week, guys. I hope you're all staying safe and staying healthy yourselves. It's scary out there being in the health workforce. I absolutely get that. Just make sure to look after yourselves too. So, tip number 6, you got to fill your own cup before you fill others. Anyway, until next time, guys, stay safe, stay healthy, and I will see you in a video very soon. Bye.